Honorable Sweni Tsipane in absentia. Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers present, House Chairperson of Committees, Honorable Ryder, House Chairperson of Members Support and International Relations, Honorable Hadebe, Chief Whip of the NCOP, Honorable Moimang, Honorable Members of the NCOP, Salga representatives, and distinguished guests. Honorable Members, I consider it an honor to be presenting the Provincial Week Report today. Provincial Week is not an exercise. It is a flagship oversight instrument of the National Council of Provinces. It is where constitutional mandate meets lived reality. It is how we bring Parliament to the people and how we test whether government is truly present where it matters most, and that is in communities. At its core, Provincial Week gives effect to cooperative governance. It allows this House to assess firsthand whether municipalities, the sphere of government closest to the people, are capable of delivering services with dignity, consistency, and accountability. Over time, this platform has become a space where citizens speak frankly about their lived experiences. Too often, what we hear from communities is frustration, which is often justified and repeated. This is a platform that reflects systemic governance failures that have accumulated over the years. I am sure we can all agree this cannot continue indefinitely and unaddressed. Honorable delegates, we must make 2026 a turning point. The next time we go into communities, we should not expect to hear about collapse of services. Rather, we should hear about progress in service delivery to the satisfaction of our people. Not widespread failure, but systems that largely work with only targeted improvements that are required. Honorable delegates, our theme, and I quote, building viable municipalities for enhanced service delivery of basic services, unquote, was not chosen for convenience. It was chosen because the reality on the ground demanded that we address the systemic failures that see communities across the country taking to the streets in protest. Such protest actions are largely justified. Nearly half of our municipalities are financially distressed. An estimated 47% of water is lost to infrastructure decay before it reaches households. National Treasury has indicated that 1.6 trillion rand is required to address water and sanitation infrastructure alone. This is not a marginal problem, it is a structural crisis. Honorable members, key issues from the report reflect that across all 9 provinces, 3 systemic failures emerge with alarming consistency. The first is governance instability. Political volatility continues to paralyze administration in many municipalities. Very often, audit action plans are adopted but not implemented. Accountability is discussed but not enforced. The second is financial distress. Many municipalities are unable to collect revenue and therefore cannot meet obligations to service providers such as ESCOM and the water boards. These municipalities remain dependent on grants that are often mismanaged, and this is not sustainable. Severely compounded by poor infrastructure maintenance, delayed procurement, and contractor non-performance. Honorable members, in the Free State, material irregularities amounted to 568 million rand that point to deep failures in financial controls. In Mpumalanga province, stalled housing projects and non-functional wastewater treatment plants continue to undermine service delivery. Communities wait years for houses that are left incomplete, while untreated sewage contaminates rivers. These conditions are not acceptable. They are not inevitable, and they need to be corrected immediately. The report makes one point unmistakably clear. Without decisive intervention, the current trajectory will continue. Honourable members, what needs to be done to rectify this? As leaders tasked with policy formulation, we have a responsibility to those who sent us here to find solutions and to bring relief to our people. The white paper review on local government comes at a critical moment when we all agree that we need to turn local government around. Our agreement is based on the irrefutable evidence presented in this 2025 Provincial Week Report, which reveals not progress, but a deepening crisis in local government. We agree with those parts of the white paper review that seeks to build viable municipalities, implement consequence management, and address the aspect of funding that reflect a reality. Honourable Minister Slabisa, we welcome your executive undertaking when you said, and I quote, "The review of the white paper is not a cosmetic update. It is a strategic reset," unquote. Honourable members, oversight without consequence is ineffective. This House must now move from diagnosis to course correction to effective enforcement. Accounting officers presiding over material irregularities must be held personally accountable. Section 165 of the Municipal Finance Management Act, together with the Public Audit Act, must be applied decisively without fear or favor. Non-performing contractors must be blacklisted. And I don't mean companies. I mean individuals directly linked to those companies. If we identify the individuals, blacklist them, they will not be able to go out and open another company on a new name and continue as usual. We cannot tolerate a system where projects stall indefinitely while payments continue to be made. Contracts must mean something and penalties must be enforced without delay. I urge permanent delegates of this House to take an active role in performing oversight in their respective provinces. Honourable delegates, our provinces sent us to the NCOP, and we have an obligation to perform effective oversight to ensure that we go out to projects that are incomplete or stalled and find out the reasons and report back to this House so that we can hold the executive to account. Each delegate should adopt at least 2 or 3 critical projects within their province and report quarterly on progress or otherwise. Oversight must become continuous, not as and when it is convenient. We must also be prepared to name those responsible for service delivery failures, whether they are contractors, whether they are municipal officials, whether they are government at any level. We must hold them accountable. Transparency must not be optional. This House should not hesitate to identify companies and directors linked to stalled or failed projects. At a structural level, municipalities must frequently and urgently fill key vacancies. A municipality without a suitably qualified municipal manager, suitably qualified chief financial officer, or a suitably qualified technical director is a municipality that is set up to fail. Honourable delegates, the Financial and Fiscal Commission has repeatedly warned that the current funding model is no longer fit for purpose. The local government equitable share formula does not reflect rapid urbanization nor the rising cost of service delivery. Municipalities are expected to serve growing populations with outdated allocations. The result is predictable: financial strain and infrastructure backlogs. Honourable members, we must support the review of this formula. We also call on SALGA to strengthen municipal public accounts committees. These committees must be equipped to interrogate audit reports rigorously and to enforce consequence management, including recovery of losses in terms of Section 32 of the MFMA. Effective impacts are the first line of defense against financial collapse and service delivery failure. I know it is not easy for us to say that all municipalities should have suitably qualified people, especially when you take into account the deep rural municipalities where chief financial officers, managers, especially at a technical level, are difficult to come by. But we need to find a model that will attract these professionals into those municipalities so that they can then become viable in their own right. Very often we find that many municipalities are unable to generate own revenue because of where they are situated. They also need to be assisted. As I conclude, honorable members, South Africa has a rich history of scenario planning. We have the National Development Plan, which we need to ensure that it works at the very local level that it is meant to assist. Each of these exercises warned us about the consequences of weak governance, fragmentation, and institutional decline. If we are candid, we have drifted too close to those negative scenarios, and many communities are now frustrated and have become restless. Let's not be passive observers of decline, honorable members. Section 42(4) of the Constitution assigns this House a clear responsibility to represent provincial interests and to safeguard cooperative governance. We, as the NCOP, are the bridge between the provinces and the national sphere of government. And it is therefore incumbent upon us to take our oversight role seriously and ensure that we bring relief to those citizens in our country that are finding it very difficult to lead dignified lives because of service delivery failures. We must act accordingly and ensure that our citizens are taken care of. I thank you.
Thank you very much.